Harry's Wife, part 97.22, The Walk of Shame, video analysis. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Many of you followed the Platinum Jubilee and also, of course, the various antics of Harry and Harry's wife, some of which I have analysed already in order to help you understand more about narcissism and, of course, to enable you to understand why she does as she does. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex had their own procession down the centre aisle at St. Paul's Cathedral whilst the congregation was seated. Along they came, just the two of them escorted by one gentleman. This, of course, will have been done on purpose to prevent them processing in with everybody else, and, if the suspected rumours are correct, that Harry's wife was wired for sound, may well have been done to prevent her overhearing snippets of conversation and utilising them to her advantage. Cringe and Ginge found themselves isolated and escorted almost like two late school pupils turning up for assembly late, and the school prefect or a teacher marching them along, putting them into their seats, causing people to have to move in order to accommodate them. Of course, it bears watching the footage of their processing so we can determine more about what's going on in the world of Harry's wife. So first of all, let's play the footage on its own, and you can just watch it and determine what you see as going on. And then I'm going to play it again, and I'll provide you with my analysis. So, first of all, here comes the footage on its own with suitable musical accompaniment. Well, okay, I told a fib. I showed the footage twice. That track's too good not to have in its entirety, isn't it? So you've seen the two of them walk down the aisle, which some people have labelled the Walk of Shame. But now, let's watch it again, and let me tell you what's really going on. So the two of them walking along, hand in hand, of course, assertion of control physically, and you can see various people looking. There's the occasional smile, but most people looking as if to say, oh, here come these two. Some people suitably unimpressed, some people smiling. Negotiate their way around the large grid thing in the centre. Overhead shot, the drone operator thinking, just give me the signal, Charlie Alpha, and I'll fire. Or maybe the seagull from the Oprah "What?" interview was waiting to do its business. And they continue walking along. Heads are turning. The fuel is flowing towards Harry's wife. Oodles of fuel from all those tertiary sources. She is the centre of attention, just as she prefers it to be. Now, of course, what's important for you to understand is that as you watch her walk along there, is she experiencing any shame? It's a big fat no. Why? She's devoid of it. There would be those individuals who, if they happened to have behaved in the way that she had, and they were not narcissists, and for some reason having taken a leave of their senses and engaged in a period of time of telling porky pies and sending pelters against their family, most likely just would not have turned up out of shame and embarrassment. Or, if they had turned up, they would have snuck in at the back, kept well out of the way, but not Harry's wife. Remember, her narcissism causes her to believe that she's not done anything wrong whatsoever, that she saw nothing wrong in all the lies that it's been demonstrated that she told. She believes that she was entirely justified when she spoke about the supposed racist comments, about the lack of support, how she had her passport taken away from her, that she wasn't allowed effectively to go anywhere, was placed under house arrest, all the various brickbats that she's flung across the ocean, the mud that has been slung towards Her Majesty and members of the extended royal family, her narcissism deems as entirely appropriate. And as she, of course, walks down that aisle, she isn't thinking to herself, "Core blimey, I've said all of these things about them. I'd better keep my head down and look contrite." No, not at all. None of those things are going through her mind. Why? They're in the past. The narcissism deems that she doesn't need to focus on them, so she does not. And instead, all her narcissism is basically telling her, look at them. They're all here for you. Turning their heads, looking at you. Some scowling, some looking nonplussed, others smiling. Doesn't matter. Love me, hate me, but never ignore me. And the fact that all of those tertiary sources were reacting to her presence made her feel powerful. The receipt of that fuel, proximate, in person, was large amounts of fuel. Large amounts of fuel provided to her. Many proximate sources there, although they're tertiary, so the potency isn't great, but it's still a decent fuel bonanza for her. Now, of course, as she shimmies her way and sassays down the aisle, there's not an ounce of shame, but instead she's drinking up all of the fuel. Of course, when they arrive at their seats, the wounding commences, because they're in the second row, and as I explained in the previous part, sit there wounding, the fact that they were relegated to second position does cause some wounding. Of course, she's just been well fueled, so the hole that is impacted in her construct as a consequence of this wounding causes her fuel level to drop, but it's not going to send her anywhere near a fuel crisis because she's just been very neatly fueled in the walk all the way up to the seating. So the wounding that occurs as a consequence of the relegation to the second row affects control, and I've explained elsewhere how that was dealt with, but it doesn't cause her a major problem because ultimately she's able to assert control, and the fuel that she loses is only but a fraction of that which she's received as she wandered along there. Richter's grin plastered on face, smirking away the response of the receipt of fuel that she's receiving. It doesn't matter that some people are looking at her as if something that's on the bottom of her shoe. It's a reaction, and where she catches the eye of anybody that happens to look at her that way, she will just think to herself, "I'm far more important than you. You're just envious of how beautiful and fantastic I am." And that, by staying in a position of withdrawal, enables her to assert control. Her level of delusion is so high that rather than think to herself, "Goodness me, all of these people won't like me because of what I've been doing," she honestly thinks, "This is fantastic. I'm getting a show of my own." Now, of course, as I've explained earlier, the reason that these two were processed on their own was undoubtedly done to ensure that they couldn't talk to people and try and obtain footage or rather, cause any mischief by upsetting matters. So whilst she gained her moment and the fuel, it did have that collateral consequence for other people of preventing her from gathering what she'd come to gather. Of course, Harry's expression is that of an individual who's not a narcissist. You can see that he looks somewhat pensive, a little bit nervous, anticipating what will be the reaction of people. That he realizes that ultimately there has been bad behavior. He swallowed the Kool-Aid, of course, from his wife, but he doesn't have narcissism shielding him in the way that she has. And that's why there's such a contrast. And as you can see in the thumbnail, he looks stern, looks pensive, whereas she's loving every minute of it because all eyes are on her. And it doesn't matter if those eyes are ones of admiration and joy, as a handful of the people may well have conveyed to her, or, as the larger number were, nonplussed and unimpressed by her. The fact is, it's all fuel, and it's all good for us. And this is what reinforces the point of why you must always go no contact with our kind. Because if you give us any form of reaction, whether it's good or bad, you're fueling us, and that's what we want. Another excellent example, through the utilization of video analysis, so you understand what's really going on, and interpreting the responses and behaviors through the prism of narcissism, as only an expert in narcissism such as I can provide you. Please do ensure you like this video, and with all of them, get them shared far and wide, so that you can aid me in getting rid of the nonsense that's peddled by other people that don't understand narcissism and present the incorrect picture. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.